Okay, welcome back to SwansCast Weekly, everyone. So this is the second episode of our new format. So as we said last time, if you're not aware, we're going to be doing a weekly sort of recap on all the games that might have happened in the last week, and then look forward to any games coming up, and talk about any news or issues ongoing in the club at the moment, and maybe talk about any highlights and stuff or bits of interest in the whole league in general or in football. On a weekly basis. So once a week we'll look to get out Monday or Tuesday probably as we move on into the season. Obviously a little bit different now because it's pre-season, so we're not necessarily doing full-on pre-match, post-match talk. We'll touch on the friendlies a little bit, but I think there's some bigger pills to swallow and news to talk about right now. So that's what we're going to get straight into. So I've got Lee along for the ride with me today, so welcome back, Lee.
Hello.
Swansea's managerial search then. So we said in the last video, it looks nailed on that we're going to have the new manager. And you could pronounce his name better than me, so if you want to say...
Yeah, it looked like, this time last week it looked like it was going to be Eustace.
Yeah, so keep as assistant manager for anyone that's unaware. And I believe he pretty much was a done deal from what we understand. And he wanted the job, because everyone did get a bit annoyed when all of a sudden he wasn't getting it because of the length of time the manager search is taking. I think we included, we're like, what's going on here? It's a bit weird. But by all accounts, and believe what you want to believe, obviously no one knows for certain, but apparently he really wanted the job, but some personal reasons got in the way, and we don't really know the ins and outs of what they are, but that's why it's not happened, basically. So, take from that what you will, but that's the situation that we're in. So, moving on, it looks like we've now got 3 candidates, being John Terry, but more so Russell Martin or Jody Morris in the last couple of days. They've all sort of had a period, I think, as favourite, all 3 of them. In the last 24 to 48 hours, the 3 of them have rotated around who's favourite, so... The bookies might know a little bit, but clearly don't know necessarily the direction it's going. Maybe there's been some talks. I believe Jody Morris has been in talks. Maybe Russell Martin is currently now the favourite, so maybe he's in talks now. But again, nobody knows for certain what's going on. We're just kind of trying to pick up the breadcrumbs and follow the trail and work out who's going to be the manager with, 10 days.
Week and a half.
10 days, if that, until the season kicks off at this point. So what's your take currently on the managerial situation?
Well, first of all, on the Eustace thing, it may well be personal reasons. Fair enough. He's probably settled, in London with QPR now. There may be personal reasons, but as a young manager, it's your first job. Would you take over the Swans right now? And I wouldn't touch it with a barge pole.
See, for me, I think the only reason you would take over the Swans right now is if you're a young manager looking for your first job. I think if you've already... the same reason Cooper's left. If you've already done a decent job somewhere, and you're either at a club looking to progress, or you're... Maybe not at a club looking to progress, but say in a championship looking to progress, or... you're like Eddie Howe or Frank Lampard, who's done it, and you've done a decent job somewhere, shown you can do it. Now, you can go to that next level. You wouldn't want to take this sort of job because it's like, I could go there and take a massive backward step if it doesn't work out. And it might not be my fault because I'm not going to have any resources. Like, we've been punching above our weight for so long that one day one of these managers is going to come in and just not have a good season. And it might not necessarily be their fault. You might have a load of injuries. All of a sudden, the squad is looks really bad. There's no players. There's no experience. There's no quality compared to the last couple of years. And all of a sudden, that manager finishes near a relegation battle and gets sacked. And all of a sudden, Eddie Howe and Frank Lampard look a bit worse than what they looked before. Just using those 2 as an example, or Chris Wilder, because they're the names that have been recently successful, out of work for a while. Maybe they'll take a top championship job, bottom Premier League job, that sort of area. And based on our season last year, top championship job technically is where you would say we are. But the reality is we're probably not. So that's why I'm saying if you're going for your first managerial job, it's worth taking the risk of this role, like Steve Cooper, like Graham Potter, because if you can be successful, you've done an amazing job, like Steve Cooper, because of the restrictions and the financial restrictions you've got. If you can pull through, have a good finish, all of a sudden your stock is up here, yeah? Graham Potter got scouted by Brighton, gone there, and as much as Steve Cooper didn't get the Premier League job, he had talks with 2 or 3 of them, so they're interested. So they've got nothing to lose, because if it doesn't work for that manager, you're probably going to get another chance somewhere else, maybe in League One, but it's not the end of the world. Whereas for someone who has had success before, gone to a tough job and then can't do it, more questions are asked then, like, you can't do it when it gets a bit tough. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you mean totally, and I think we won't have a big name anyway. We won't have a big name manager who's been there and done it. But what I'm saying is, like I would agree with you about young managers, but I don't think we've got the pick of the bunch of good young managers.
Probably
because they won't. With the timing of the season, just a week and a half before the season starts, Potter and Cooper come in and take on a project where they've got all summer to see what they've got to build. They had parachute payments, even though obviously we didn't spend that much money. We're at a time where we've brought in no players. Looks like our club captain's going to leave. There's a week to the start of the season. Would you take this as your first jump? And I wouldn't. So I think we are going to struggle to find.
Yeah.
It may work out. I
think there is some managers that will say that.
I can understand why some managers will not take it for personal reasons.
Yeah. No, okay, that's fair enough. I understand. Yeah, I do agree with you to an extent, but I think the really ambitious ones, will see it as a chance and use it as a
fancy challenge.
So it's just going to be another situation though, wherever one of these, Jody Morris or Russell Martin or John Terry, if they came in and did a good job this season, it's quite likely we might have to find a new manager again next year. And that's the that's what I mean. If one of these young managers that's happy to take a gamble, first job or second job, hard situation, backs their ability to do it, even if it's getting an average group of players with minimum resources and a bunch of youth products playing a certain brand of football, even if it's mid-table finish and it's considered, he's done really good in the circumstances, their stock just rises, and then they might try and jump ship next year anyway, and just 1 year, bit of an hard job for a year, and then I'm going to get a nice bit of a kitty, something like that. The classic, they'll go here and then go somewhere like Stoke, who likes to spend money, but then everyone fails.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
yeah. No, well, that's the model we work in, isn't it? I think every manager that comes in's got a punch above his weight.
If it was competition for these managers and another club was sniffing around them, maybe we wouldn't be the one they go to. But if we are a club sniffing around them, I just think, you're not like, say, Bournemouth. You probably have to get promoted. Yeah, even now this season, I would say. Or any of the, like Sheffield when United came down. Fulham, they got new managers, didn't they? So you have to get promoted probably. At least for us, if you manage to do anything good this season, on your CV, that's going to look fantastic. So if
it would.
To make that gamble and you do it, it's good for them, isn't it?
If anyone comes in and we have a good season, then they're a fantastic manager. Yeah. That's the bottom line. And like you said, some will want the challenge of that. They might look at that and think, I'll back myself to do that. I can do this job. I just think the timing of it. Looking at Russell Martin may come in. He would have done all pre-season now with MK Dons.
Yeah, he'd be the one I'm most surprised at because he's already got a role, that he's got a project ongoing, he's building a style of play there, he's quite well respected. So for him, he's more of a gamble. The only reason he probably would do it is because he is going up a league. We are probably still considered top end of Championship, even if as fans we're a bit concerned that we might not hold on to that status this season.
This is going to bring me back now to when we talked about last week, when we said about why was Cooper there for 2 weeks more? What was that about?
I think they must have thought that Ustans was going to come. They must have thought it was happening.
But why weren't they in talks with him 2 weeks earlier?
Well, they must have been, but then they were only just about ready to sign the contract. Maybe because of the stuff that Cooper said in the media after the friendly the other day, they just thought that, we nearly got a guy, let's just call it a day now. I don't know, to be honest. It's all weird anyway. They've handled it wrong. I'm just trying. I'm just trying
tragic.
to get my head into why they've done it. I can't justify it.
It's
I'm just
absolutely tragic.
Trying to understand it, but you can't justify it at all.
No, I know. Obviously, this is all like hindsight now. This is the position that they're in, so this is what they've got to deal with. But I'm just going back, and I just can't get my head around how bad the situation has been handled. Maybe they were holding out for Cooper for compensation, like we said, but if he was looking elsewhere, he should have been gone like after the playoff final.
Yeah, they should have.
And we should have had a summer.
Maybe they should have taken less compensation, knowing that they're going to get rid of him anyway. And then maybe he would have gone to Palace. Maybe that was the issue why he didn't go. They wanted
how much compensation can?
3 million
How much compensation? Yeah, something like that.
But now they got nothing, so.
Yeah, nothing, and no manager with a week left.
Yeah, and I know what you're saying, like, that's why it's our job to come into with no pre-season. I think for, like, Jody Morris or John Terry, without a manager job, they're like assistant managers essentially, and they who have been. Maybe it's less of a risk for them because it's the first role. I think they're both going to have a contact book similar to Cooper as well, which is probably a bonus there. I'm not sure what their style of play is going to bring. With Russell Martin, he's probably going to bring the attractive brand of football our Swans fans have been asking for. Maybe not the contacts, but then the advantages that come with the style of play, and players might want to come in for that. Will be on board with that. Because again, they can do the same. I can go and play in this system and play well, and then I'll get a move. I think everyone's going to see us as that sort of club now, though. You just look at. We'll talk about Grimes later, but there's no reason to stay here longer. You know the club's getting shafted. You know it's like, you're probably going to be sold even if you don't want to leave. If you have a good season or two, they're probably going to sell you anyway. So you may as well just view it as a stepping stone.
Yeah, I think we've settled nicely into that bracket now, firmly. If we break it down realistically, like I think John Terry shot up to like favourite, didn't he? Because he left his role at
that seems so coincidental. You had to ask the question.
I know it was a bit strange that he left his role, and then maybe there was something, but I can't see that happening. Even when like he left, I thought there's no way. Surely he's going to attract a tidy fee of wages, I'd imagine, just because of who he is.
Still first manager role though, and it's not representative even if you're a past player.
Yeah, I know, but you'd be looking at like, he wants to sort of be in the mould of like Gerrard and Lampard, doesn't he? Where he's instantly sort of successful, and maybe gets another move after a year or two. So I'd be surprised if he took this on, because he's as you said, he is like it would be his first job. But he's a reputation. He's trying to build a reputation, isn't he?
Yeah, the difference to Lampard and Gerrard with him as well. He did do 3 years of assistant manager experience, didn't he? So
I think he goes massively backwards. Like because of who he is, if he comes into a championship job and like fails, I don't think he gets another.
Yeah, but any manager that fails, isn't it? But like Rooney is probably the one that's. Well, I don't know. Where's he going to go next? Because he's not having a good time.
Well, as bad as we think our pre-season is going, it could be worse if you look at derbies.
Yeah.
Because they're probably the only team that's having the worst time than us.
Imagine before Cooper left and he's just like, it comes out that he's injured Ryan Bennett for like 8 weeks.
Yeah, he's gone through him in training.
Yeah, I'm being pictured coming out of the Marriott Hotel down the marina with like 8 girls, like half naked.
Yeah, well, good on him. Good on you, Steve. Good on you, Steve.
I'm just looking at the odds in front of me. So Russell Martin is 1-2 favourite at the moment, quite heavily. Jody Morris 7-2. He was heavily favourite this morning, though. I think even. John Terry 4-1 now, so he has dropped down a bit. And then there's a massive jump to Mickey Flynn, who's 18-1, and Cameron Toshak's fallen right off 20-1, which makes me think again. He was there or thereabouts, and they've decided, nah.
He's always there, though, isn't he? Like,
I do feel a bit sorry for him because he has tried to get some manager jobs. I wouldn't have been too disappointed if they went for him because at least he's through the academy. They played the style they were asking for. They've done well. I know it was him and can't remember his name. The other guy. There's 2 of them, weren't there, that they operated together in a youth team when they were successful.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
The names escape my mind. I'm sure someone in the comments will let us know. But yeah, so like, Russell Martin's now under 4, just changed.
I think it looks like it's going to be him.
He's gone up. He's gone up. He's even more favourite now. Live on air.
I think it looks like.
Live on air, he's even more favourite, but it's not suspended yet. But we got more updates. Jody Morris is now 5-1. Shot right down. John
looks
Terry,
like again
8-1.
Looks like again it might be Russell Martin, but we said this last week. But it looks like it might be him. To be honest, I think we're going to get lucky with this, because if we do manage to get him in, I think it'll be a good appointment, because I think he's done all right with MK Dons. I read a stat somewhere that only Barcelona and Man City had a higher percentage of possession last season.
So it's like when Brendan Rodgers took us to the Prem in that one season where we were competing like with all them in the stats, like Leon Britton and Mark Gower had Mark Gower had the most assists or whatever it was, or chances created or something, wasn't it?
Something like that,
passes, well, yeah, look, I mean, that's how we did it the first time, innit, really. I don't know whether you can, arguably it's harder to do it. The way we got to Premier League the first time is harder to do it like that now, especially with the parachute money influence. The clubs that can actually use that money, not just to run the club, like Fulham right now. Well, obviously, when we came down, we had to use the money, depends what you believe, I'm not here to argue about that, to run the club, yeah? That's what we had to use the money for. Fulham have used the money to buy Harry Wilson, potentially Matt Grimes, and are basically the only team in the Championship chucking money around. Because as much as I posted on Twitter the other day, having a bit of a disappointed tweet about Matt Grimes' sale and for the fee, which we'll go into in a bit of detail in a minute. I know there's a bit of a discussion and disagreement on that. But then out of interest, I just had to look at the Championship and who's spending money and how much and what players are moving around. And I would say 98% of transfers that high that have been done this season are free transfers or loans. There's no money being spent.
Yeah.
So and to be fair, we've actually spent money. We've actually bought like a player for like 1.8 million, maybe something like that. I don't know what was Joe.
Yeah,
he was over a million.
Yeah, something like that.
He was over. Yeah, 1 point. So that immediately puts us in like the top 5 spenders, I think.
Yeah,
which is crazy because we're all having a moan about not spending money, but yeah. So I guess maybe that's a reality really of a COVID hit football world, and maybe this is. Maybe not all of the football leagues, like the top teams in like the Premier League, and especially the Premier League because of the TV money they get. Some of the other high European leagues, although you hear the likes of Barcelona really struggling with money at the moment, hence the Super League. And maybe this is COVID's great reset of like football in terms of money, which needed to happen because transfer fees were getting out of hand. So let's see how long that lasts for and if it actually has a long-term effect.
It's a good shout. You'd think that, but then bloody 12 million for Harry Wilson in the Championship is absolutely ridiculous money.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. There's less of it going on, though.
Oh yeah, definitely less of it going on. But also, we'll see what the effect is because every time we have a summer tournament like the Euros were on, there's always a bit of a delay with like transfers going on because players come back late and stuff like that. Yeah. But we'll see.
Maybe, but there's been a lot of transfers. There has been a lot of transfers. They're just free.
I think you're right. Yeah, you are right though. I think in terms of like football needed a reset, and this was probably because of COVID, because it was getting silly.
Yeah, and the other thing is like, I think Fulham and why they're able to spend so much of this parachute money, they've yo-yoed a bit, haven't they? So they've probably got a bit of money in the bank for that, and they're a London club for a start. So there's, as much as people might not think it, location matters. You're going to get more money just because you're based in London, and if you're based in Swansea or other clubs in the Championship, like Wickham last year, if they went up to the Prem, they're not going to get the same amount of money just on sponsorships and stuff like that. Like, it makes a difference just because of the pull and how much people see things. Like, they drive past the stadium or see your club shop or your branding around the city. If you're in London, a bigger advertiser or sponsor's going to want to invest.
Yeah,
and we saw that all the way through the Premier League, and Bournemouth the same probably. Like they were quite similar in a similar boat, I would say. Some of the smaller clubs, Norwich maybe, but like Watford, for example, and Fulham now, they can spend the parachute money as they want really when they come down because they're probably not too bad off anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, we won't go into details on that. So other three then, happy with if it is going to be Russell Martin or if it's going to be Jody Morris. I think that interview with Russell Martin's been doing the rounds about his style of play.
Yeah.
People seem quite happy with that if it was going to be him.
Yeah, to be honest, I'd be happy with him. Like, I think we're going to get lucky if we do get him because we are getting a young manager that plays the football that everybody wants. So we'll see what happens. But I can't wait for next year if it is Russell Martin and we're playing passing football and we've got 90% possession, but we're festering in mid-table or like at the lower end of the table to see what the reaction is then.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of people that are understanding, but there'll be some people that are like moaning still because you're always going to get that.
Yeah,
just needs to be like I've said in the last video, but I think everyone needs to reset their expectations a little bit, regardless who comes in. I don't think you should be expecting a playoff push. If you get one, if you're like last season, if they're thereabouts by Christmas, then fair enough. But just don't expect it right now, because you're going to get disappointed if it doesn't happen. And I don't think it's realistic to expect that right now with the current situation of who we've lost and haven't replaced. Mainly the loan signings, but then Andre Ayew on a free, and if Matt Grimes goes, that's massive. Like those two alone, I think puts us 10 places lower in the championship.
Yeah,
if not more. There's not really too much concrete information to talk about with the manager then, so we just got to wait and see. Hopefully next week, by the time we do our next weekly video, we'll actually have a manager.
Yeah, no, I'm like Russell Martin would have turned it down for personal reasons, and
honestly, I think if they run out of managers, they're just going to give it to Alan Tate at this point.
Give it to Tatey till the end of the season.
Even if it's interim, yeah. And then, like what they said when it was Alan Curtis, and then all of a sudden, some Italian guy called Guidolin pops up from nowhere.
just out of nowhere. No, I think, fingers crossed. Anyway, I think this time next week when we do the video, Russell Martin would have seen him holding the scarf.
Yeah, let's hope anyway. And I think he will be someone that can work with the squad to get a good playing style, like the old Brendan Rodgers, Roberto Martinez style, where they didn't need to spend big money on players. I know it was a different world back then, but maybe we'll see something similar. Hopefully, I think that's what we got hope for. I don't know how realistic it is, but that's what we got to hope for.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on then. So, Matt Grimes.
Where do you want to start?
Okay, so I put out a tweet then, didn't I? So I put out a tweet. So let's just start with this because there's a few discussion points that we can use to sort of bounce off, I think. So I said, if Grimes goes for the low fee that has been reported, there are massive problems here. Why can Winter not get a fee for a player worthy of their ability? And if it's so low, what is the rush to sell him now? You're telling me a Premier League club wouldn't pay more than this fee is quoted. So just for context, there's been a few fees thrown around. I've seen ranging from 3 million to like 4.5 million. And then I've seen that it could rise to 7 million depending if Fulham get promoted. And it would be like 1.5 million in 2 installments this season. So it's not even like you're getting the 3 million up front. And then the 4 million if they get promoted. Like all these different things thrown around. So we don't know what the fee would be. And even when he gets sold, it's going to be undisclosed. So we're not going to know. You'll probably hear roughly what it is, but you know what it's like. So somewhere around that ballpark, he's a club captain. He's been very consistent in Championship for 3 years now. He won a Player of the Season in one of those 3 years. He was our Player of the Season, isn't he, on the channel last season? I think
comfortably.
Some people don't appreciate the influence he has in the middle. Sometimes they think he's slow or he doesn't pass it well enough or whatever. He's got to have the options to pass it. He dictates all of our play. You notice when he's not on the pitch, he collects all the ball from the back and tries putting it forward. Sometimes it doesn't always go as forward as quickly as possible. You can't just blame him for that. It's everyone, that is. And I just think you'll miss him when he's not there. There's not another player in that team that does his job. And yeah, people say he's not a good captain, whatever you want to say. Well, he finished 6th and 4th. So if your captain's finishing 6th and 4th, doesn't matter what you think about him. I think he's done a decent job. The players respect him, which is the most important thing. I just think that's a low fee. Doesn't matter if I know he's in his last year of his contract, but they were talking a couple of weeks ago after the playoffs when Newcastle, Southampton were apparently looking at him. They were talking about 12, 15 million, which I understand they might not pay that, and that's paper talk. But how do you go down to 3 to 4? Like, how does that happen? And don't tell me that if Newcastle and Southampton are sitting there like, hang on, he's available for that fee. Like, that's worth the risk. Even if they think he's a risk, that's why they won't pay the 10, the 12. Surely they'll take a risk of 3 or 4 for a midfielder that's going to do a decent job for them. I'm confused.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a massive miss when he goes. And again, like you said, we picked him out so many times last season and said you'll notice when he's not on the pitch. I don't really understand the criticism. Maybe when we first came down, some people weren't too keen on him. I get that, but last season,
he had player of the season that year. He started left back and then he went into midfield.
He had more stick under Cooper's first season than
but I think
it's
great. Because Potter's playing style was more like what Grimes has probably been used to in the youth academy under Swansea, and he played really well in that style. Cooper's was a bit different, and I think Cooper's playing style in general is what people might not have been happy with, and they were just picking Grimes out as the reason for it. But it's what he's been asked to do, and he's doing the job he's been asked to do for Cooper at a high standard. It's just people are... We know a lot of people, it's like 50-50, are unhappy with Cooper's playing style. And he's a midfielder who's the centre of that playing style. He's doing what the manager's asking of him. And he's had a good season. Like, he might not be doing the fast-paced stuff that he did under Potter, but that's not what Cooper's setting him up to do, is it? Let's be honest.
I thought he was class last season though. Like, I don't understand the I think he's been made a scapegoat a lot for when we've played bad, and he's been the scapegoat. So he's got that. But then people say about the playing style and that, there were times last season when we did play good football, and I remember we highlighted it once where a lot of the good goals that we'd scored last season, the good quality goals, started with him winning the ball in the middle. And
every time we did any midfield comparison, he was always coming out on top in most of the areas.
I remember the really good goal we scored against Millwall away, where we sort of broke, and Jamal Lowe finished it off, and it was a really good goal. It started with him again. He wins the ball just outside the box, and then he plays the ball and he gets it back, and he's basically creates that move. And he did that a lot last season, and it goes unnoticed. So I get what you're saying. Yeah. I think 4 million or 3 million, whatever it is ridiculous to sell your club captain to another team in the same league, whatever position we're in. I think it's ridiculous, and that's where I stand in it. I know people are saying he's in the last year of his contract and all this and whatever, but what he's worth to the team is more than 4 million.
You just play hard.
Other teams would laugh that off. I would keep him for another year.
I don't care what everyone's saying. Yeah, but we need the money, this, that, the other. I'd rather sell. I don't know.
Well,
George Byers. You could probably sell George Byers for 2-3 million. I would rather keep Matt Grimes for another year. Sell Byers because he was apparently off anyway. Like last week, they were saying he was off anyway. Keep Grimes for a year, even if he wants to go, and he's not signing a contract. If you're going to sell him for that fee, he's more valuable this year for us finishing probably significantly higher in the league. I think. Or at least you have a better chance of doing it. You're not going to replace him quality for quality. And who knows what might happen and what this market's going to be like next year and what's available. And the manager, whoever we get now, will have a year to think about what he's going to do. And how do you know Matt Grimes ain't going to play under this manager and be so actually I want to stay and play under... Probably not going to happen, but it could. I just think for that fee, I'd rather just keep him for another year. Especially after who we've already lost this season. But then there's a couple of questions that have to be asked with that as well, which again, I see some people brushing off. So first of all, I mentioned in the tweet why Winter can't get a fee. Everyone had enough to say about the fee for Joe Rodon when he got sold last summer.
Yeah.
I don't know, I mean, when did Winter start his role? Was it him?
It was him. Before. It was him because Birch had gone to Spurs, hadn't he?
Yeah. So Winter, everyone questioned the low fee there. And I'm not. I know he won in the last year of his contract, but there's a theme. Actually, was he? I don't even know. Was Rodon in last year? I don't know. Maybe, I can't remember. But there's a theme there that he's got. We all valued the player for the club higher than the fee he managed to get. It seems that clubs can just bully us, knowing what position we're in.
Yeah, and this is
but
what
we
I
need
mean.
to
This
not
is
allow
what
them. Like, we're desperate for money. Everyone knows about it, but just don't let them bully you. If they want the player, they come and get the player. Like, it's not transfer deadline day, and it's like, okay, well, we need the money. That's the last offer we got to get, so let's let him go for that price, right? You could have, if you haven't sold him by the end of August, you could have said, like, right, he's available for 3 million, 4 million. Who wants him? Somebody's going to take him. Somebody's going to come in and take him. Probably a desperate Premier League club will come in and take him, I think, at that point. Why do you need to ship him off a month before transfer deadline day for a cheap price?
Yeah, I think, and that's what I mean. And I know people are going to throw up the lot of like, oh, last year of his contract, so we get nothing, so we lose 3 million.
Yeah.
I think it's a combination of things that either they've lost the compensation that they were backing on for Cooper, so they want to sell him.
Yeah,
that could be one. That could be one thing. But also, it like you said about Winters and that, like Winter selling Joe Rodon as well for a small fee. Where is the management of the club, like you said, where we're getting the best value for our assets, and we're not? Because 3 million, 4 million for your club captain, I still think is a joke. Whatever the situation is, whether it's the last year of his contract, then why is our club captain getting to the last year of his contract and we're being held ransom? Why is that happening all the time?
That's the other question I was going to ask, because the last 3 or 2 years at least, you see all the time articles of how many players are in their last year. Every single season you see that article, and there's like 10 first team players on there. Some of them then start popping up, like in the second half of the season they've signed a contract, and Jay Felton did it last year. Maybe Cabango. But why is it always... And then you hear a statement like Steve Cooper would say, I think, but he obviously didn't have... It wasn't up to him. But he would say, like, we're concentrating on the season and then we'll discuss in the summer. Yeah, but in the summer there's a year left and all of a sudden everyone's going cheap. You need to get them when there's 2 years left, because then that doesn't happen. And if they're refusing, then maybe think, okay, well, maybe we'll look at selling him now for like 3 times as much as what you'll get for him next year. Or twice as much. Like, why are they always, with all these players, letting them run down their contracts so late? They're like, oh, we can't afford to renew their contracts now, so we won't do it. So then they just go and sell them for cheaper, or just spend a little bit of extra money, renew their contract, and if somebody wants them, they've got to pay for them.
Yeah, totally agree.
If the reason is last year, and that's literally all you could get. And back to what I just said just now about like waiting another month and see what offers come in, because you don't know, people are going to start looking now. Season will start. Someone might get injured, and they're going to be looking. Someone was saying in the tweet comments like, "Oh, how do you know it's a risk? You might not get another offer for him." I think he's good enough that somebody will bid 3 million for him all the way up to transfer deadline day.
But are we in that position where we need 3 million for our captain?
Yeah, we're that desperate, because that's probably not going to touch the size.
Because if we're absolutely desperate for 3 million, then what's going to be left over once they, give the new manager a contract? Are you telling me we can't sign anyone else unless we sell Matt Grimes?
We signed that Joel Pirou for like 1 point whatever. I haven't seen enough of him yet, but rather have kept Grimes.
Yeah, well, this same. I would as well. I think it's the principle of it as well. Again, like selling with Ayew gone, potentially selling your best player and captain on the cheap a week before the season starts.
Yeah.
Like it just looks bad on the club again, doesn't it? And probably sends a message that with the Rodon sale last year and the Grimes sale this year, if it does happen, it just sends a message that that's just what we are now. Yeah. Just sell whatever we can, and bring in players that are not at the same level, but cheaper.
Like,
there's only one way you go in with that strategy.
And if you want to compare, like, people say it's not necessarily Winter's fault, he's got to do what he's got to do. 2 things here. One, look at Daniel Levy. He always manages to be a tough negotiator. He gets what he wants for his players, probably more a lot of the time than what he should get. Like, and then when he comes and buys players, he quite often gets them cheaper. Like, Spurs aren't exactly pulling trees up at the moment. It's not like I know they're a Premier League club and they're consistent in terms of being in the top half, but It's not like they're winning things. So why is he always and forever has been regarded as this tough chairman that is really good at selling high, buying low? Like, there's a negotiation process there that we obviously buckle too early at the moment, and especially since winter's come in. I think Birch did it right with some of his sales. And then when you compare Winter and Birch, even if Birch is doing the same thing right now, selling Grimes for this price, he's putting out a statement explaining exactly why, the reasons behind it, why we need it, how it's going to secure us for the next year, and what the long-term plan is, and why this impacts that and what it does and allows us to do in terms of if it allows us to bring players in, or what it's going to allow us to do for this season and how it's going to help us. And then, as much as it's a tough pill to swallow, you kind of like, all right, okay, I get it, fair enough, appreciate the honesty. Like when he downgraded the youth academy. You know, you just appreciate that communication.
Yeah, I think
you don't get any of that, and I think that's what's made this so much harder to take. Even if if we look at the other side of the Grimes thing in a second, which I will now, even if the fee is reasonable and for the last year in his contract, you think it's fair enough, it's worse because there's no communication like that. If Birch is here, he gives you that communication, and it's easier for you to take, even like a little bit easier. You're like, right, okay, I don't like it, but all right, fair, I get it.
Yeah, well, but this is becoming a real issue, because we said the other day when we talked to the guys from Seattle, we said what is the case with the owners? We don't hear from them. They're absent. Don't say anything. And where, as before, like you said, we were getting it with Birch, we're not getting that now with.
Winter's role is to be that middleman, and he's not doing it.
It's absolutely ridiculous. We've had no communication about
There's been nothing.
Obviously,
nothing about
nothing.
After
Cooper
the playoffs,
leaving. After the playoffs,
what's the vision?
We've lost our manager. We've lost our best player. We're potentially losing the captain.
I don't even know what the expectation is of the club for the club. Where do they think we're going to finish?
This is what we want.
Expecting us to finish.
This is what we want. If he comes out and says, look, it's another year or two of selling, and we expect to be in this position in 2 years' time where we can compete again, then you can kind of get on board, like you said, and be a bit gutted. But at the moment, for me, we were going to go on to it with me about what the owners and what sort of state we're in now. We're in trouble. And I think we are at the moment. I could be wrong, but we're relying on now Russell Martin or someone to come in and do a fantastic job. But that's not always going to happen.
Yeah.
We're seeing the same erosion of our squad depth as we did when we got relegated from the Premier League. And I'm not saying we're going to get relegated from the Championship, but when you just keep getting rid of your players, they're all running down the contracts, you're selling them for cheap fees, and you're not spending money, all of a sudden we're left with a pretty average squad. And I thought we had a pretty average squad last year, minus 4 or 5 players.
Yeah.
If Grimes goes now, who is left to attract a fee? Maybe Connor Roberts and Cabango, maybe?
Yeah. For me,
someone else may pay. Apart from that,
a Burnley might pay for Fulton, I think, someone like that. But
maybe Fulton. So maybe
probably not first choice for them.
So technically, what I'm saying is we're 3 player sales away from
no one left to sell, and are we going to make money then? Yeah,
and we're not going to pay for anyone
unless someone springs out the academy all of a sudden. But
but that's less likely to happen with.
That's decreasing in likelihood because we've already pulled them all out. It takes time to get a couple more, and now
but we spent years building up that academy with players that we've sold on
out in the Championship.
It's not going to happen in the short term. So for me at the moment, I know it sounds doom and gloom, but I am really worried about the club at the moment with the way it's going, with the way they're doing these transfers and.
Yeah, well, I got a couple more things on the Grimes thing. I think it's important to look at the other side of the coin because there was a lot of people that did look at it that way. It comes back to what I said about the COVID thing. Maybe, again, it is actually a sign of COVID that is all we can get for him. And I bring back the point I made about there's been hardly any money spent in the league, bar Fulham, who seems like the parachute money kitty is just a transfer fund for them at this point. They must have been able to run the club, and now they're like, just spend that on players. Apart from them, everyone seems to be a little bit struggling and doesn't want to spend money. So maybe it is a sign of that. Maybe it is, and maybe that's when I come make the point about it being the reset of fees, especially in the Championship and not top leagues anyway. Maybe it's just a sign of that, where that is the fee now for that type of player, whereas before COVID it would have been twice as much. Like 7 or 8 million probably would have been fair to Fulham, based on his last year in the contract. I think maybe you'd want more, but you probably couldn't be disgruntled with it. So yeah, there is that side of the coin, and there was a good discussion on Twitter about it. Some people saying 7 million they'd be happy with, but then like last year's contracts would get it. Other people were like same as us in terms of thinking it was completely ridiculous. I had some people saying it's not the end of the world with Cooper and Grimes going, we may play better. Like, all right, if you think style of football, maybe like I don't know if Grimes was the problem, but obviously a different manager might play different football. But like, I don't know if you're going to finish fourth. Like,
yeah, but this is another issue as well. Everybody's saying about like all the style of play. If, say for example, someone comes in and wants to play passing football, we haven't got the players that can play that quality football, do we?
I mean, Potter did it,
especially with Grimes going.
Potter did it, but finished mid-table, so
yeah, but Potter had a better squad than we've had in the last 3 years.
I know that, but I'm just,
and that was the frustration. No, but that was the frustrating thing because everybody
lower finish. That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, I know, but everybody absolutely licks Potter's ass because it was like he's the. And I thought he did play wonderful.
He had McBurney, Dan James,
Dan James.
Routledge was a bit younger still.
Van der Horn was playing at the back.
Yeah, he started. I know Fernandes only played one game. Olsen was there at the start of the season, only wasn't there because of injury.
Montero was there for a bit.
Yeah. Trying to think there was probably a couple more that we're forgetting.
Fur in midfield, and yeah, we said that. But yeah,
Carroll.
Basically he had a better squad.
Tom Carroll,
yeah. He had a better squad.
Selena, when it was his type of game. Nibanokub's type of game. Yeah, so there's that. The other thing I want to mention, last thing on this, is apparently, allegedly, one of the final straws in why Steve Cooper left was because he knew Grimes was going to be sold this summer. And he just that's enough's enough. He's obviously key in the way Cooper plays. He made him his captain from the moment he walked in. You probably don't want to be told like, oh yeah, Grimes is going to be sold this summer. He's like, do you know what? Sod it. Like, it's ridiculous, to be honest. Like,
yeah, I think you're right.
How are you going to expect more? Like, I finished 6th, I finished 4th. Obviously, the logical next thing you expect from me now, after a playoff final defeat, is to go up next season. But you're taking away my captain, and you're not really giving me anything to replace it. Like, yeah, I can understand completely why that lack of ambition has kind of made him think, well, I've done a good job twice. I think even walking away from the club, I'll be able to get another job.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and he was vocal, as you said, in the second half of the season. Anything else you want to say on Grimes then?
No, I'm just gutted. I know what people are saying, but I think it's ridiculous. I would rather them keep him.
Yeah.
Keep him for another season.
I just wanted to say, in regards to the atmosphere on the club or whatever, Owen Tudor Jones was talking about the club on BBC Sport the other day, or yesterday, I think it was.
I saw this.
And he just saying he fears the club's facing a relegation battle because of the lack of manager, selling Grimes, etc. He did tweet, though, last night. This morning I was worried. This evening less so after reading that Russell Martin might be on the shortlist. Get that compensation paid, and he's the man to get the best of the current squad, plus any new signings, by providing the fans with the style of play they crave. So that's nice to hear. At least he thinks, silver lining a little bit, that he might be able to make the best out of a bad situation again. I know, but that's like the best we can hope for. But just the name being linked has changed his attitude towards how the season might pan out. So I guess we could take a little bit of positivity out of that.
Oh, I agree. Like I said, I think we'll be very, very lucky if they bring him in, because I think he will do a good job. But you said, like you said earlier, like if he comes in and does well for a year with the squad, not as good as it was last year, and he's going to be off.
Yeah.
With whatever players do well out of the current squad that we do have, and then next year you have a less squad again. Same thing happens. You have a
It's going to be a
less
cycle
quality
for
squad again.
quite a while, probably.
Yeah, and this is what I'm saying. I don't think we're going to be in a relegation scrap. Touch wood, not this year. But if this path continues, then we will be.
I don't want to keep repeating myself, right? But this is kind of what happened to Brentford for years and years. Yeah, they sell their best players, cycle, do well, sell a bit. But this is what I was going to say. They got really good fees for their players, managed to actually reinvest it in the club and in the squad, and eventually had enough of a squad, not just the star players they had, that they did really well 2 years in a row and went up. That's what we need to be doing. If this is the model we're doing, we're just not doing it good enough because we're not getting the money we need to put it back in to actually keep our sustain that sort of challenge to eventually get over the line.
That's a good point.
We've got players that can go for those sort of fees. Well, we had players that could go for those sort of fees. Like if Ollie Watkins is selling for that price, McBurney should be selling for that price. Yeah, you'd argue, or like I know he did go for high. I know he did go for high, but like then you've got to put it back in, haven't you? And that's a different question.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying though. But that's what I keep saying about the erosion of the squad. You're selling players and bringing in players that are not as quality, whereas Brentford did, almost the opposite, where they were getting, they were managing their squad very well in the sense that they were getting big fees for their big players, and they spent like 10 million on Ivan Toney, and he was a League One player. You tell me Matt Grimes is worth 3 million?
And you must have scouted him and been very confident in him to spend that money on a League One player.
Yeah.
And to be fair, it worked. Like, it was good, well done. But yeah, you're right. And Matt Grimes goes for 3 million, Ivan Toney, young, went down to League One to get his career going. No player should be sold from League One for 10 million, really.
I think it was like 5 going up to 10, but...
Yeah, but still,
they would have paid 10 million.
That's a huge fee for League One. You'd never get that, like even 2-3 years ago. Doesn't matter who they are. Anyway,
that's investing the money back in your club responsibly. Anyway, but anyway, we could go on about that all night.
Yeah, a couple of more things to touch on before we end. So this week there's been a couple of friendlies. Obviously, we had the 3 against Newport that were all behind closed doors. The 1 and then the 2 that were arranged because of cancellation with one of the Swindon, was it? Cancellation with Swindon, so they had more games against Newport.
Swindon and Bristol Rovers, wasn't it?
Yeah, so Bristol Rovers being cancelled now on the weekend, just gone. Apparently because some of our squad had COVID. Was Fulton one of them? Grimes?
I heard it was Fulton and Grimes, wasn't it?
So Grimes probably ain't going to go until he's not got COVID anymore, so it might be a bit quiet for a couple of days. They did say medical towards the end of the week, so maybe that's when his isolation finishes.
Yeah, probably.
That's what all the reports were saying. So that got cancelled. So we've got Forest Green tomorrow and then Southampton on Saturday. I say tomorrow. Forest Green's on Wednesday. We're recording this on Tuesday, so obviously it depends when you're watching the video or when it goes live, or listening on Spotify if you're not watching. I always refer to our videos like watching, but I got to remember that not everyone's watching and try and get better at that. I've two things here. So like you said to me earlier, we haven't really had much of a pre-season in terms of warm-up games. A very low amount is a bit of a concern. Second thing for me is, if the COVID cases between the midweek game last week and the Saturday, so Wednesday, Saturday, somewhere in that gap, some players got tested for COVID, yeah? That means if they tested positive, they should have 10 days. How can tomorrow's game go ahead, but Saturday's couldn't?
Oh God! Does anyone know how it works anymore? I thought if you have a close contact, then you've got to isolate. But maybe most of the players weren't considered close contact. I don't know. I know what you're saying.
It's been picked up between Wednesday and Saturday. Whatever the problem was, whoever's had to isolate, I understood it. If you are in that category, it's 10 days, unless it was they had to get tested and the results went back. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, so maybe they added sooner.
Results all the time, didn't they? They tested twice a week. I don't know. But
yeah, I don't get how it works.
A bit weird, but it's definitely interrupted our preparation for the season. Not that it wasn't enough interruptions.
So yeah, but just to sum up, we've played one pre-season friendly.
Yeah, we played
really.
Newport in like
Yeah, but
in like training ground matches.
yeah, but what is it, like 3 games or like 40 minutes or something like that?
That's
Probably.
what I mean. Training pitch matches.
So we've
and
had
then a
one
friendly
like
against
match.
Plymouth.
Yeah,
and then we're
and
going
that's
to
it.
play Forest Green. What league are they even in?
League 2, innit?
Right, and then Southampton, who stuffed us last year in the pre-season, didn't they? Like, ridiculous, like 8-1
God, it was like 8-0 or so, yeah, something like that.
I mean,
so yeah, it's going well. It's going even better than it was last week.
Yeah.
10 days to the season starts. We haven't got a manager, and we played one pre-season game.
Okay, so the last thing then. How much of a problem are we in currently? Is it just a mess, like, at the moment? Or is this like a crack that's been there since we've maybe come down? All of a sudden, can't cover the crack up anymore? Or is it going to be alright when the manager comes in? And are there protests incoming?
I've heard rumours that protests are incoming, but like as Abraham and Richard said on the Seattle thing, the owners that we got are absent from the basketball team that they own as well. So, I mean, I saw a protest was going to happen in Castle Gardens. They are not going to see that at all. So I think just on that note, if a protest needs to happen with the owners,
then in the ground, I guess probably
it needs to make more sense with like the game after. First game of the season, we're on Sky Saturday night. That's when it needs to happen.
Do something that's actually going to be seen. So the media will see it, they'll pick up on it, there'll be news, and then, the owners might pick up on it, but probably, you're right. And I'm not sure how bothered they're going to be when they're sitting in their like third holiday villa sipping on a martini anyway, and they see some people in Castle Gardens. Look, I'm not saying don't protest and don't ask for them out, and everyone's entitled to do that, and you go for it, like, do what you want to do. But maybe, like, think about the most
effective way of
getting the message across. And I think sometimes on Sky, when you've got that camera, Sky is what gives you all the money in football. Not so much in the Championship, but in the Prem, it's where all the money comes from. So that's where it's going to hurt the most. And if that's for visibility. And then the other one is like, don't, as much as I hate to say it, isn't it? Like, don't go to the game. No one bought a ticket, and that's a big sign as well. They're the two big ways of getting your message across that something needs to change.
But I don't think, personally, I think it's a big problem that's been underlying since we've come down, since the owners have taken over. And I think they've managed to paper over the cracks with appointing good managers. Potter was good.
Some good loans.
Cooper was good. Some good loans. That's papered over the cracks, and it could be the same again this year. But if it is Russell Martin, he could come in, play lovely football. We may finish mid-table. That would paper over the cracks. But I think the longer this continues, we will be like shooting down the table.
Yeah.
With the way they're running the club, like we said, letting players get down to the last year of their contract, selling them for small fees, not bringing in players that and replace the quality. We're running out of players. We're running out of a squad at the moment.
You mentioned in the squad now. I've got it up in front of me. I can't remember who was on this screen last season on the Swans where they put the first team up. Yeah, they've got the squad. So this is first team. Not under 23s, under 18s. They're different tabs. You can click on them and you can see them. They have put Rashisha. He's in there. Which makes me think we're not going to buy a right back. Cameron Evans and Brandon Cooper. Fair enough. I thought Brandon Cooper might. And Cameron Evans had a good game in the Cup last year. They probably deserve the opportunity to be fourth choice centre-back. So that's behind Bennett, Cabango and Latabodia. Bennett's not going to play all season. He's like with his fitness. So Latabodia and Cabango will be a partnership that's going to probably have a lot of time together. Latabodia is still young himself. So Bennett is the experienced head there, and Norton might maybe play centre-back too, but he's going to start right back, because Conor Roberts is out until like end of October or something. I know we mentioned in the last video about the midfield, we didn't mention Corey Smith, but we've got Corey Smith, George Byers, Fulton, and Danda and Liam Walsh if Mac Grimes leaves. That's for 3 positions if we're going to continue to play 4 at the back, which is what Cooper's been playing in pre-season before he's gone. So that's 5 people for 3 positions. There's no cover there. 2 of them on the bench, 3 of them on the pitch, 1 injury. Screwed. But obviously, you've got Ollie Cooper, probably going to get a little bit more game time, I'd imagine. Cover for Danda maybe in the 10 role, or Byers or whoever starts there. Or Perot did play there even though I thought he was a striker. He played there for Cooper the other day. Daniel Williams is listed on here in first team. I mean, this could all change with the new manager because he might not want him, or you might think the class. Like, you don't know, do you? This is, I guess, in what Cooper's decided before he's gone is what the first team is going to be this season. And Jordan Garrick's there as well, so he's more of a winger, of course. And then you've got forwards, so if you're going to include Garrick here as well. Lowe, Whittaker, Kyle Joseph, Joel Pirro and Liam Cullen. It's a very, very young front. Jamal Lowe is the youngest one there. I know Wayne Routledge actually isn't even on you, so has he signed a new contract?
I don't know. I thought he did.
He's not on
he?
you. He's not on you. He's genuinely not on you. So maybe they will. Maybe he hasn't. But if he's out until January, maybe they'll give him one then. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
I've not heard, to be honest.
No, I don't. Maybe he hasn't actually. Because I think we all thought it was his last game, wasn't he? When he went off injured, we thought that was it.
Could be an exciting lineup of forwards, but not experienced.
It's not good enough.
Squad
is not good enough.
Maybe he was quiet in some games, but that experience definitely came through a lot last season. When we got tough, he pulled us through it quite often. 1-0 and he'll get a goal or scoring a cool penalty or whatever he was doing. His experience was there to be seen quite a lot, last season. I don't know if any of them are going to do it. Jamal Lowe, I wouldn't say he's experienced yet. He's in the mid of his career probably. He's 26 and 27, something like that. But he had a late start as well because he wasn't through a youth academy or anything like that. He was a PE teacher before, wasn't he? So he's done it a different way where he did manage to start lower league and has moved from a couple of clubs to work his way up. But it's we struggled for goals last year. We really need this Pirot to be class. Currently, as it stands.
I just going back though, we were saying about how much of a problem is that squad is not good enough. Okay, give young players a chance. They may be good, but they may be good. You're taking a big gamble there. The young players that we've bred through recently,
Ollie Cooper is probably the one that's next. But he didn't have enough experience last year.
Yeah, but how many did you name there that haven't made a first team appearance that we're probably going to have to play this year?
They might have in the cup once, one appearance in the cup, that's it.
But I remember players like Fulton and McBurney and that getting game time in the Premiership. When we were up, they were coming off the bench in some games.
Especially under Bradley, he had quite a few games in the Prem.
Yeah, exactly. So you got players there who had experience coming in, a little bit of experience. They were ready and they were good enough, obviously. But
Jay Felton is our longest serving player.
Yeah, well, that says it all. And in answer to the question before, I was saying I think we are in a big problem.
But obviously Routledge isn't listed, so
I think we're in a big problem. I'm saying about the protests. I think people have been upset with the owners, but it takes something obviously now with the manager situation and the bit of a mess that we're in at the moment. People start talking about protesting, but it's always been there. It was always the same when we had a bad run of results. It was the owners are rubbish. Oh my God, get rid of the owners. And then when we play well, it's sort of forgotten about. So it's either there or it's not. And I think it is a big problem. I think it'll only actually be brought up seriously, like we said, about having serious protests and maybe reluctantly not going to games and doing stuff when the games are on Sky. I think that's only going to happen if the results are poor on the pitch. If we have a really bad start to the season, we lose the first 10 games, which I hope doesn't happen. That's when the uproar will come against the owners.
The problem is as well when 100 people do it, but the rest of the stadium doesn't. Then it's pointless. I will not be negative. Everyone's got to be on board, or maybe it's not working. But and I'm not saying you should do it or shouldn't do it. That's up to you. We're just here discussing the question. Essentially, it's not for us to say what everyone should do and what everyone should think. but we're just discussing the question because it has been brought up on Twitter. People are organising stuff like in Castle Gardens, and if you want to go, that's fine. I hope what you're doing makes a difference. Even if I wanted to come, I am not able to. I work, unfortunately, and can't even go to half the games myself. But it's I'm not sure what the solution is. But something on Sky is definitely probably for me the biggest and the most effective thing, because then you're going to get those pundits and commentators talking about it, and it's going to be an article about it from them and all the rest of it. And
it's the only way that people outside of the club know the problems, because I work with a lot of Cardiff fans and they don't really have an idea that there's problems with the owners until I say, like, oh look, they're not really fans are not really happy with the way they're running the club, and they're like, oh, okay, well, it seems all right because got the playoff final and it all seems okay, but actually behind the scenes I think there's a lot going wrong at the moment. So doing something like that where it's in the mainstream media, people are aware then that fans aren't happy with the owners.
Yeah. Just looking quick before we finish through the under-23 squad, there's a couple in here. So there's Cameron Concrieve. I think he could be one to watch coming through. It's quite interesting because you look at the pictures and they've all got different colour kit on. Whereas Daniel Williams is in here because he's in the first team. He's got like the home kit on. Last season's home kit anyway. Who else is in here? I think Rio Campbell. Maybe a little bit too soon for him, but again, he's someone that maybe is one to watch. But Cameron Concrieve definitely, and Scott Butler in defence as well. But we've got a couple of defenders coming through. Thing is, right, this is the under-23 squad, and this is even thin. There's only like 4 midfielders listed, so I'm guessing they're dipping into the under-18s. We look a bit thin. I know there was a couple signed the other day from like the Premier League rechecks and stuff that dropped down, and we got a couple of those in. But it's looking a lot thinner than it has in recent seasons in regards to our academy. There's just not as many people. Oh, Jeff Boney. Get him up front.
Oh, yeah.
He's in the under-18s.
Get him in.
I didn't know he named his son Jeff.
No, I didn't realise.
Jeff Boney. Wilfred Boney, Jeff Boney. Oh, he could be a legend.
Get him in.
I hope he plays for the first team one day. That would be class.
Yeah, it would be class.
Is Jeff on the ball?
He might get a chance when we get down to League 2.
Anyway, on that note, maybe we should call it a day. It's been just over an hour, I think, at this point. So, it's been a good discussion there. As always, though, let us know what you think about everything we spoke about in the comments. What you think about who will be our new manager? Who do you want to be our new manager? What do you think of the Grimes situation? Have we got enough money for him? Do you think it's fair fee? Do you think it's too much? The whole last year of his contract thing, do you think that's the best we're going to get? Do you think we'll miss him? Let us know in the comments below. And of course, we'd really appreciate it if you could please hit that thumbs up. It really helps us grow as a channel. Our subscribers, since we came back for this season, they've been shooting up in the last week and a half, 2 weeks. So thank you very much, everyone that has been supporting us that way. It is the best way to catch all of our content is to subscribe and to click the little bell next to it as well, because that will give you a notification every time we upload a video. And then if you want to stay up to date otherwise, follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Twitter's our most active. That's where we get involved in discussions with everyone else in the fan base. We're always happy to debate and talk about stuff on there, obviously as civil as you can. We don't want to cause arguments or nothing. We always like to have a good discussion. And also, if you don't want to watch on YouTube, you can catch us on Spotify as well. So our last episode was actually a special one. We did a midweek between the 2 weekly ones. We had the guests on from Seattle Sports Union that we had on earlier this year. Caught up with them a little bit about how Jody Morris has recovered from his injury, what's going on there, maybe what happened with Paul Arriola, and we got their take on our owners, because obviously they're Americans themselves. They've got a little bit of a background knowledge with the owners, what they've done over there. They obviously own DC United. They've got some ties with some basketball team, they said, didn't they? So they've dabbled in some sports over there, so they've got a little bit of knowledge, not loads, but they've just been given a little bit of insight about what maybe we can expect and how they operate and stuff like that. So it's an interesting video, so check that out. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
See you soon.
See,
Russell Martin's Barmy Army.
hey, if you're wrong there, you never live in that town. That's going in that out of context championship Twitter, that is.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
See you next time.
See you soon.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget, if you enjoyed the video, to click the like button to help us grow. To keep up to date with all of our new uploads, hit the subscribe button and push the bell to ensure you are notified of all of our new videos. As always, engage in the comments and let us know your opinions on what we discussed today. And if you want to support us directly, check out our new merch where you can find some awesome Swansea related t-shirts.